Jake Lever's season looks to be over. Wins again for the Eagles and the Tigers. That and more as we take a look at round 11 so far. Kane Corns, welcome. Jake Lever is the big story in footy, isn't he?
Yeah, no doubt about that. A massive blow for Melbourne, who are flying. Another victory today. They are one of the hottest teams in the competition right now. But this blow in the first quarter could have the potential to derail their premiership hopes. I just look at their backline and he's the perfect fit for them back there as that intercept, that high possession player. So now they're going to have to go with Oscar McDonald, who's doing a good job. You're not going to put Tom back because he's got 19 goals for the season and has been a terrific partnership with Jesse Hogan. So you're going to have to go to the next level and go with someone like a Sam Frost from the VFL. So huge blow, and it's the second time he's done that particular knee. So
concerned with the Demons that they sent him straight for scans while the game was still going.
Are you worried it's an ACL?
Not sure yet, mate, to be honest. Doctor's not really sure either, so that's obviously why I got a scan. But as I said, I don't really want to talk about it at this very point in time.
So that's the word from Jake, but the word from the club is that it is indeed a suspected ACL. We'll await for confirmation. Beyond that, though, the composure of the Demons, particularly after the Bulldogs got off to a fast start.
Yeah, Dogs kicked the first three and it had the Melbourne fans a little bit nervous with their past histories of losing games they should win, but just love the way they worked through this. They were composed. They didn't panic when they went down by that 3 goals early on, and their firepower, their run from defence and their ability to win contested footy. And the 2 guys in the forward line we're going to see here, McDonald, as I said, 19 goals, 5 for the season. Hogan, another 5 goals today. Just a brilliant partnership up front, 2 key posts, but then the likes of Melcham and the Smalls around there. Right now, Melbourne are the complete team. Obviously, they'll be feeling pretty flat with the news of Jake Lever really hurting their season today.
I dare say the Western Bulldogs would be feeling pretty flat as well because they just haven't been able to continue on from that flag in 2016. And for the first time, it seems that Luke Beveridge has conceded that on a number of levels. Let's listen to the Western Bulldogs coach.
I think what we did in 16 hasn't done anyone a favour. It probably hasn't done us a favour because everyone just thinks they can win it every year. A number of other factors, I think that, whether it's players not quite being able to handle themselves after the heights of winning that. Whether it comes from the current group or it continues to evolve through others, time will tell. But there were some good signs in that regard tonight, just not for long enough.
3 fascinating elements to that. Blaming the flag, essentially, for their ultimate downfall in the seasons that have followed. Questioning whether or not the group from 2016 has actually been able to cope with the heights, and then raising the question of potentially having to change their list, potentially significantly. What do you think?
Yeah, fair bit to work through there, isn't there? Fascinating that he's almost regretting winning the flag, which I think if you ask the Bulldogs fans, they wouldn't give that back for absolutely anything. Now, this flag was won a year and a half ago. Time to move on at the Western Bulldogs Footy Club. This has gone on long enough. I've heard far too much about the flag a year and a half ago. So let's move on from that. Let's deal with the issues right now. And there will be turnover of the playing list where we think Wallace will probably move on as a free agent. Dowhouse is clearly in dispute over his contract at the footy club, and Roughhead's the other free agent who spent some time at the VFL level this year. So they'll move on. They need to evolve the playing group. But can we just park the premiership? That's been done. It's a year and a half ago. Let's move on.
Here's a fascinating man, Luke Beveridge. We'll see what comments he comes up with next. Now, Richmond, dream time at the G, and sadly, despite the huge build-up to this game, it didn't really live up to the hype in terms of a contest because Richmond were victorious by 71 points. Shane Edwards, though, not only was he voted best on ground, he also wins
the Saturday Star. He was unbelievable, 30 disposals he had, and I'm not sure he's been underrated. Some think that he is, but clearly not underrated in most circles, but clearly the best man on the ground today. Just the little things that he can do. He's probably one of the smartest players in the competition. We're going to see a little toe poke here to set up Josh Caddy right here. Look at this. I reckon there's not too many players in the game that can do that. We'll take another look at this in slow-mo because we need to, but just the instinct, the awareness to realise the teammates running past. Caddy again with 4 goals. Richmond have won 15 straight at the MCG. What I love today, they kicked 17 goals on the game. Jack Rewald only had 1. So they are no longer reliant on their most proven goal kicker anymore. And good luck to anyone facing them at the G in finals this year.
Yeah, you talk about home ground advantage in Adelaide and in Perth. Well, the Tigers at the MCG right now.
Right.
Who would want to go there to play them? Now, the big story from Essendon's perspective came quite early in the game when David Zaharakis went down with what is either a shoulder or a collarbone injury. The pain on his face here as he came from the ground, you can just see how concerned he was, and obviously he didn't return.
Yeah, not a great night for Zaharakis. That is a perfect tackle, though. That's how you can still hurt the opposition in modern-day footy, and the tackle there from Nan Curvis, I think it was Conquer as well, legally doing that and bearing your opponent into the ground. That's what Richmond have done well. They're physical, but then they've also got the pressure and the run. So unfortunate for Zaharakis and clearly hurt Essendon early on, but a terrific tackle.
Now, this obviously was the primetime game for the round and a lot of cameras to capture every moment. What about this particular free kick, though, that has the footy world talking? Very controversial,
No,
I would say.
it's not a free kick. I'm not sure what you are allowed to do as a key defender now in the game. This is just a genuine one-on-one contest by two powerful men fighting it out in the contest. They've both got hold of each other. That is a perfect spoil from Hurley. And look at the score there. Just before half-time, game in the balance. Martin goes back and slots that. That is a pivotal moment in the game. You cannot penalise a player for being too strong. And far too often, defenders are getting stung for not much. You can't put hands in the back, you can't chop the arms, and you can't do what Hurley did then. Well, I'm not sure what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, you wonder if the Dustin Martin factor comes into the call from the umpire, because at the end of the day, umpires are human beings as well. That's a talking point, as is this. Alex Rance, what was he doing?
Well, this is the worst free kick of the year. How an umpire can be sucked in by a blatant attempt from Rance, who, let's face it and be honest, great player, but he's got a history with staging. How the umpire can fall for this. Look at this, he's channeling his best Superman impersonation of all time. Once again, too strong in the marking contest. McKernan judges it better. Rance does a move that we're more likely to see in soccer, and he'll wake up and he'll be embarrassed, and Michael Christian should rightly penalise him for that.
It reminded me of the Soccer World Cup in 2006. We won't mention that, though, as we build up to Russia. Hey, the 10th win in a row for the West Coast Eagles. Not surprising to see them beat the Saints. It was a bit of a scare, 13 points the margin in the end, but Jack Darling, a significant injury for him, or at least that was how it looked at first.
It looked really nasty, didn't it, early on? He stayed down for some time. We know how tough he is. We're thinking, I hope it's not a broken leg. The good news is he was up and he tried to get it going in the change rooms. Eventually re-emerged on the bench with heavy ice on that ankle. Now, they've got the bye, so they're hoping that he'll be back after the bye, and thank goodness, because he's been an absolute star this year. In his absence, Josh Kennedy just stepped up and kicked a lazy six.
Yeah, good on JK. Now, down in Tassie, it was a good win for the Hawks, only just escaping with a 3-point victory over Port Adelaide. You weren't at all happy with Port's use of the footy.
No, it wasn't at all. Their ball use today was as poor as I've seen from this Port Adelaide side. Time and time again, they did this. We could have shown 20 clips of Hawthorn just dropping off and Port Adelaide bombing the ball inside 50. Hawthorn's intercept marking was an absolute highlight today. They did this time and time again, and as I said, this kick here from Ebert just to no one, straight back to Hawthorn. Once again, the likes of Sicily and Frawley and McAvoy and Ruck just chopped off and frauded all the forays into the forward 50 from Port Adelaide. So really disappointing day from Port Adelaide, despite their first quarter where they were terrific with 5 goals. Hawthorn clearly outplayed them for the rest of the game.
Now, what about this deliberate behind? Now, ultimately, the Hawks didn't score a goal from it when the free kick was awarded. Are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, it was clumsy, wasn't it? It wasn't something you'd usually see with the fumbled mark, and he was clearly under some pressure. But in the end, we saw some questioning umpiring decisions this weekend, but I think he got that one right.
Now, will this be thrown out by match review officer Michael Christian?
Let's take a look at this. This is Sean Burgoyne in the first quarter today. Yes, it will. Look, it was, once again, I think, just a free kick. Polak looks to be a little bit dazed there, but he got up and took the free kick. Umpire reported him on the spot. This will be thrown out and adds further weight to Chris Scott from Geelong, saying that there just shouldn't be match day reports because, once again, it's not going to stand up. That'll be gone by Monday.
We saw James Sicily cop a week for stomping on a player a couple of weeks ago. Will this be looked at? Do you think this is Tom Jonas from Port Adelaide in some vision we've found?
They will look at it. Tom Jonas just does step on the leg of Segler, but I think if you slow it down, Jonas was unlucky that he just clipped the boot of Segler as he's gone to put his foot on the grass and it's just stopped his run. So clear accident from Jonas. didn't look great when we first saw it, but I think he'll be fine.
And this has been a big talking point throughout the year as well, contact below the knees. What did you make of this incident?
Speaking of worst free kicks of the year, I just can't understand how that's not paid. Now, luckily, Dan Houston is okay there and his leg wasn't broken, but that is a big man leaving the ground, sliding in, and the umpire doesn't pay a free kick. So I'd hope they'd come out and admit they got that one wrong.
Yeah,
and luckily for Port Adelaide and Houston, he doesn't have a broken leg today.
That's exactly what the rule is there for. As we turn to the Cats and the Suns, and Gary Ablett, he knows how to play Metricon Stadium well, doesn't he? And it was on.
It was on. They gave him a bit of niggle. He's Took Miller and Gary Ablett just having a few words, and Gary looked to relish it, didn't he? The extra attention going back to a ground that he knows so well. This was a great win by Geelong. I was actually nervous for them before this game. I thought it had upset written all over it, but absolutely clinical performance from Geelong, led by Gary Ablett, who had a lot of uncontested footy, 28 uncontested footy, but this is what we haven't seen him do this year. That is trademark Gary Ablett. 3 goals. High 30s in possessions. He'd only kicked 4 goals for the year before this game. So great to see him doing what we know he can do and going forward and hitting the scoreboard. Yeah, an 85-point victory for the Cats over the Suns. Does he make a core team of the week? He's in. He's a lock. Gary
Ablett a lock. Now, disappointing for the Suns, not only on the scoreboard, but also with this injury concern for their co-captain, Stephen May.
It was a really nasty weekend for injuries, unfortunately. We hate to see this. Clearly a lower leg issue. It looks as though he's rolled his ankle just stepping on his opponent's boot there, but it looks nasty. He was on crutches. I think we saw him in the room, so hopefully it's not too bad and we can get him back playing some footy before the year's out.
Yeah, never a good sign when you're on crutches after the game. Now, the Blues back on Friday night, what should they do? I mean, it was a good win for Sydney, obviously. How many more games do they need to win, do you think, for them to actually get a pass mark for the year and for, I guess, Brendan Bolton to keep his job?
Yeah, well, 1-10 at the halfway point of the season. They won 6 games last year. So I would expect Carlton, and they have winnable games against Fremantle at home. They play St Kilda at Etihad Stadium. They've got the Gold Coast Suns. There is some winnable games, and I'd expect them to win, and they should be aiming to win at least 4 or 5 of those games in their last 11 and salvage something from what's been a disaster of a season. If they're unable to do that, then you'd expect there'd be some fairly significant rumblings at board level and perhaps coaching level, because you can't accept the results that they've had so far this year.
Their fans would be pretty desperate for the top draft pick, I think.
Yeah, well, that's the other. It's disappointing that we're going to be speaking about almost tanking, aren't we? Like at this point of the year, it's the halfway point of the year, and we're already raising the issue that Carlton could be losing in order to get Jack Lukosius from South Australia as the #1 draft pick. I don't think that will factor into their equation, because Brendan Bolton just simply can't afford to lose as many games as he has so far this year.
All right, let's take a look at the ladder as it stands midway through the round, and we can tell you that the West Coast Eagles are on top, followed by the Tigers, again behind Melbourne and Sydney, rounding out the top 4. Geelong in 5th behind them. Hawthorn now well and truly in touch with the 8 after that 3-point win today. And the same old story down the bottom there with the Suns, the Saints and the Blues with a lot of work to do. The rest of the round, Kane?
Yeah, let's take a look at it, because some good games. I think North Melbourne should account for Brisbane quite comfortably. Collingwood have 3 big outs, including Howe and Varco, so that will test them against Fremantle, but you'd think that'd be too good without Sandilands and also Stephen Hill. And can Adelaide bounce back from that 91-point drubbing at the hands of Melbourne last week?
Now, one more thing before we go. It has been Kevin Sheedy's week, and he can do pretty much whatever he likes, including stealing this Richmond Blake's scarf. I think he's promised to give it back. I think the fan was a bit bemused, wasn't he? Yeah. A lap of honour for Kevin Sheedy at the MCG at Dreamtime at the G. What a week for him. He's a great character.
I think Hall of Fame week's one of the best weeks on the calendar, if not the best. So rightly deserves his place as a legend. All the inductees rightly deserve their place. And you look at it and you think, well, how are these guys not already in it? So well done to everyone inducted on Tuesday night. It was a terrific night.
Excellent, Kane. Thank you. Thank you for watching the round so far.